Jake's 3-month roommate search had spiraled into near desperation. City living devoured his funds. His freelance photography barely covered the rent on his 2-bedroom apartment. He'd plastered online ads, pinned notices in coffee shops, even begged friends for leads. But every response led to oddballs, flakes, or those who couldn't afford their share. Then, Zara's message arrived, refreshingly distinct, almost like a formal business proposal. She was new, studying local customs, seeking a serene place for her research, promising cleanliness, respect, and advance rent payments, if required. Jake found her formality strange, yet he was weary of deciphering misspelled messages. At the cafe, Zara appeared precisely on time. Tall and strikingly pale, her impeccable posture made her an anomaly amidst the relaxed setting. Her platinum blonde hair, almost white and understated, yet costly attire further accentuated her presence. Her deliberate movements, as if she were intensely aware of each step, were the most captivating. "You must be Jake," she said, her hand extended in a firm, cool handshake, maintaining an intense yet pleasant gaze. "Thank you for meeting with me." As they settled, Jake launched into his standard roommate queries. Her origins, occupation, any lurking vices? "I'm from an isolated region in Northern Europe," Zara answered, "largely unknown. I'm researching local social dynamics and cultural behaviors, an anthropological study of sorts." When Jake pressed for details, her responses, though academic, felt somewhat evasive, mentioning human interaction patterns and daily routines. Jake assumed a PhD thesis was behind her vague allusions. What truly resonated was her gesture of producing an envelope brimming with cash. "I prefer to pay rent in advance," she stated, eliminating future uncertainties for both of us. If paying months in advance and providing landlord references was a welcome change. I gazed inside, and there it was. Rent money for 3 solid months. The bills were pristine, sequentially perfect, as if they'd just left the mint. Jake had never encountered such formality. Past roommates struggled for a security deposit, yet here was Zara, offering to prepay with glowing landlord references, conversing like a CEO rather than a housemate. Still, a disquiet settled in. When photography came up, her questions about surveillance equipment were unnervingly precise. He chuckled, explaining his focus on weddings and families, but she persisted on cameras and lighting. Building security, neighborhood watch, surveillance systems. She was fixated. He chalked it up to caution, a single woman's wariness in a new place. Then the phone rang. A normal ringtone, yet Zara flinched, eyes darting around the cafe with a flicker of panic. Relaxing when she saw it was just his phone, she offered a sheepish smile, blaming sensitivity to electronic sounds. Despite these oddities, a sense of relief washed over Jake. Responsible, financially sound, mature enough for boundaries. After his last roommate's trail of dirty dishes and late-night parties, Zara's upfront payment and references felt like a promise of peace. Relieved, they happily agreed she could move in the following weekend. The first month sharing their space with Zara unfolded surprisingly smoothly. True to her word, she was impeccably clean and remarkably quiet. Actually, she bordered on too pristine. Jake never encountered a trace of mess originating from her. Her side of the bathroom always seemed freshly scrubbed, and she left nothing lingering in the common areas. Her daily ritual was astonishingly precise. She'd awaken precisely at 6:30 a.m., embark on an almost sacred tea-making ceremony lasting exactly 8 minutes, then vanish into her room for what she described as morning documentation. Jake presumed she was immersed in a journal or intensely focused on her research. She showed an extraordinary fascination with Jake's everyday routines. When he brewed coffee, she observed with captivating intensity, peppering him with highly detailed questions. Why that precise coffee-to-water ratio? What drove his need for a morning stimulant? How did caffeine mold his behavior throughout the day? Initially, Jake considered it innocent curiosity, but the analytical depth made him feel studied. Jokingly mentioning this, she explained her research required a comprehensive grasp of daily life's minutiae. Zara also displayed striking interest in his weekend plans. She'd ask about intended activities, social engagements, and the rationale behind his entertainment choices. One Saturday, during a TV binge, she sat close, meticulously taking notes. She claimed it was research on leisure consumption patterns. Most endearing was her genuine amazement towards commonplace things. The sheer marvel at pizza delivery, food prepared elsewhere, arriving directly at their door. She bombarded the delivery guy with questions about his route and system, prompting Jake to compensate with an extra-large tip. This scientific wonder permeated everything, from Jake's musical taste to grocery shopping habits. It felt like living with a brilliant outsider, experiencing modern life for the very first time. Jake even started anticipating her intriguing questions and unique observations. Strangely, she spurred him to reconsider aspects he'd long taken for granted, the reasons for displaying family photos or the social importance of shared meals. Her perspective cast an intriguing new light on his ordinary life. Little did Jake suspect, Zara's curiosity wasn't academic in the slightest. She was indeed studying human behavior, but not for any university thesis. She was involved in something far grander, accumulating data about Earth and its inhabitants for purposes beyond Jake's wildest dreams. But for now, they were simply roommates, one exhibiting a slightly heightened inquisitiveness about everyday human life. Saturday morning started like any other weekend for Jake. He awoke around 9 a.m., made his customary strong coffee, and decided today was the day he'd finally transform the spare room into his new photography studio. The expensive equipment had been patiently waiting in boxes for months. Jake had been saving for over 2 years to build his dream photography setup. Every wedding he shot, every family portrait session, every corporate headshot, the money had gone straight into his equipment fund. Now he finally had everything he needed to take his freelance business to the next level. The spare room had great natural light from 2 large windows, making it perfect for a home studio. Jake started by clearing out all the random stuff that had accumulated there. Old furniture, boxes of books, exercise equipment he never used. Once the room was empty, he began unpacking his new gear. First arrived the cameras themselves, twin titans that had drained his bank account more thoroughly than his beat-up car ever could. With infinite care, he set them down. On the desk sat equipment Jake could scarcely believe he owned. Next to it were the lenses, each a specialized tool: portrait, wide angle for groups, macro for exquisite detail. Each represented months of sacrifice and anticipation. The lighting was where the magic truly happened. Jake had meticulously researched every piece. The main light stand rose from the corner, sturdy enough for his largest softbox. His ring light, a recent treasure, was ideal for portraits, casting a perfect, flattering glow. He'd spent an hour arranging the wireless transmitters and receivers that would liberate him. These small devices allowed him to adjust brightness, change settings, and synchronize it all from his camera, eliminating the constant running around. The backdrop system was next, its rails ready to embrace different colored canvases. He'd started with white, black, and gray, but his imagination was already racing. Professionals masked the difficulty, but leveling and positioning everything perfectly took far longer than he anticipated. As he set up the computer workstation, the room transformed into a genuine professional studio. His new editing computer, a powerhouse, could handle the massive files from his higher resolution cameras. The monitor was meticulously calibrated for the accurate colors so critical for print. Jake stepped back, surveying his creation. Tripods stood ready, reflectors leaned against the wall, cables were neatly organized and labeled. The room radiated professionalism, expense, and most importantly, potential. He envisioned the enhanced images he'd capture. Just then, Zara entered, carrying her morning tea, probably ready to inquire about his weekend plans, or maybe invite herself to observe his human rituals. He was accustomed to her curiosity, but as she crossed the threshold, everything shifted. The teacup trembled in her hand, a violent vibration that racked her entire arm as if she'd touched a live wire. Her perfect posture crumbled. She stepped back, her eyes wide with genuine fear, darting across the room. Jake had never seen Zara exhibit any emotion. She was always the epitome of calm, controlled, almost robotic. Now she looked like she had entered a waking nightmare. "What is all this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Her usual precise articulation was gone, replaced by a panicked breathlessness. Jake turned, puzzled, and looked at his equipment, searching for what could have triggered such a reaction. It was just photography gear, neatly arranged. Maybe she was worried about the cost? Some people found expensive things unnerving. "It's my photography studio," he explained, moving toward his beloved ring light. "Pretty cool, right? This light creates the most amazing, even illumination for portraits. And these little boxes," he gestured toward the wireless transmitters, "let me control everything remotely." But Zara was oblivious to his explanation. Her gaze was fixated on the ring light, as if it were a weapon. Her face was paler than he thought possible. She backed toward the door, never breaking eye contact with the equipment. "Where did you get all of this?" she asked, her accent thicker than he'd ever heard it. The carefully cultivated neutrality of her speech had vanished, replaced by something foreign, unidentifiable. "I saved up for it," Jake replied, confused. "It took me 2 years to afford everything." Much of this specialized gear might be new to you, he thought, then drifted to a transmitter, lifting it to show her. "This sends signals to all the lights, so I can adjust them remotely." "Don't touch that!" Zara's shout was sharp, followed by a blush of embarrassment. "I mean, please be careful." Jake paused, the small black box, just a few buttons and an antenna, still in his hand. Nothing threatening, yet Zara regarded it like a venomous snake. "Zara, it's just a wireless light controller. I'll show you." He pressed a button, and a soft box across the room blazed to life. The effect was devastating. Zara's teacup crashed to the floor, shattering, tea splashing, but she seemed oblivious, pinned against the doorframe, eyes darting between the lit, soft box and the transmitter. "How long have you had all this equipment?" Her voice was tight, laced with fear or possibly anger. "Are you monitoring the building? The neighborhood?" Jake chuckled, but it felt strained under her intense gaze. "Zara, this is for photography. Weddings, families. I'm not monitoring anything." His explanation seemed to deepen her suspicion. She studied his face, searching for deception. "You're telling me this is all for taking pictures?" she asked, gesturing at the room. "Professional photography requires professional gear. Lights, cameras, the editing computer. It's all standard." Her eyes cataloged each item, not with curiosity, but with a disturbing intensity, gathering intel. A wave of defensiveness washed over Jake. He'd worked tirelessly for this studio. "If the noise bothers you, I'll let you know before shoots," he offered. Zara didn't respond, lost in her assessment. Finally, she bent, gathering the broken shards of the teacup, her hands trembling. "I should clean this," she mumbled, avoiding eye contact, but glancing furtively at the equipment. Something had shifted profoundly between them, and Jake couldn't grasp what. His roommate's reaction was far beyond normal, and he knew this conversation wasn't finished. The following week was the strangest Jake had ever endured with a roommate. Zara, once so inquisitive, now seemed to be avoiding him. She'd peek around corners before entering shared spaces, making sure he and his camera weren't there. Every camera flash during his test shots was met with a gasp or the sound of retreating footsteps. It felt like living with someone afraid of photography itself, which made no sense. Even more troubling were Zara's new questions, no longer curious, but suspicious and pointed. "Do you photograph people without their permission?" she asked one morning as Jake ate breakfast. "What?" Jake blurted, startled. "No, absolutely not." He frowned, genuinely confused. That would be incredibly unprofessional. Why would you even ask such a thing? What about the surveillance work you think I do? Do you even comprehend the work? Jake almost choked on his coffee. Surveillance, Zara. I photograph weddings and family portraits. The closest thing to surveillance I do is taking candid shots of kids laughing at birthday parties. But his earnest explanations failed to reassure her. Instead, she simply nodded, as if mentally filing away his answers for later dissection. It unnerved Jake, reminding him of police interrogations, where every word was scrutinized, but trust wasn't necessarily granted. The tension reached a breaking point on Thursday night. Jake, buried in his work, was meticulously editing photos from a recent wedding. Past midnight, he assumed Zara was asleep. The only sounds were the soft clicks of his mouse as he fine-tuned colors and cropped images. He was particularly proud of the ceremony shots. The lighting had been a nightmare, a dimly lit church with stained glass windows. But his new equipment had performed flawlessly. The photos resonated with genuine emotion and pure joy. Exactly what wedding photography should be. So focused, Jake didn't register Zara's approach. He only became aware of her presence when he sensed someone standing behind him. He swiveled around in his chair to find her in the doorway of his studio, her gaze fixed on his computer screen. An expression he'd never witnessed before contorted her features. Her face was ashen, her hands clenched into tight fists at her sides. She stared at his monitor, as if confronting something truly horrific. But Jake couldn't fathom why. The screen displayed a beautiful image of the bride and groom's first dance, surrounded by their beaming loved ones. What are you doing?" Zara's voice was barely a whisper, but a chilling undercurrent made Jake's skin crawl. It wasn't mere curiosity, or even suspicion anymore. It was outright accusation. "I'm editing wedding photos," Jake replied slowly, unsure why he felt compelled to defend himself. "This is what I do for a living, remember?" Zara inched closer to the screen, her eyes darting across the image with an unnerving intensity that made Jake deeply uneasy. "All these people," she murmured. "You photographed all of them?" "Well, yes. It's a wedding. The whole point is to capture everyone celebrating together, and essentially without their explicit consent, you just recorded them all." Jake stared at her, bewildered. "Zara, they hired me to photograph their wedding. Everyone there knew I was the photographer. That's how weddings work." But she seemed deaf to his reasoning. She studied the screen with the detached focus of an intelligence analyst scrutinizing satellite imagery rather than joyful celebration pictures. Her finger traced the air near the monitor, pausing over different faces in the crowd. "How many people typically attend these events?" she asked. "I don't know. It depends on the wedding. This one had about 150 guests. And you have photographs of all of them?" "Not individual portraits of everyone, but yeah. Most people probably appear in at least a few shots throughout the night." Zara's reaction was immediate and dramatic. She recoiled, stumbling backward so abruptly that she collided with the doorframe. 150 people, she repeated, her voice laced with disbelief, as if Jake had just confessed to some unspeakable crime. "Zara, what is wrong with you?" Jake finally snapped, his patience exhausted. "You're acting like I'm some kind of criminal for doing my job. These are happy photos of people celebrating. Look at them. They're smiling, dancing, having fun. What exactly do you think I'm doing wrong here?" She looked at him then, truly looked at him, and Jake saw something flicker in her eyes that shocked him to his core. It was fear, but not fear of him, exactly. It was as if she was terrified of what he represented, of what his work meant in some larger, incomprehensible context. He simply couldn't grasp it. "You collect images of large groups of people," she said slowly, as if navigating a complex equation. "You have advanced equipment for surveillance and documentation. You attend social—" "Enough," Jake declared, rising from his chair, his voice laced with exasperation. "I'm not some obsessive stalker hoarding images. I'm a professional, Zara. People entrust me to immortalize their precious moments. This isn't some sinister surveillance operation. It's celebratory documentation." Zara persisted, her voice tight. "But this technology, these devices, they're capable of so much more than weddings, aren't they?" Jake's patience finally frayed. "So is a kitchen knife. Does that make every chef a potential murderer? These cameras exist to take pictures, plain and simple. What conspiracy have you become entangled in? You're being utterly unreasonable." Silence hung heavy in the studio as they locked eyes. Jake watched as Zara visibly wrestled with his words, his palpable frustration. Slowly, the fear in her eyes began to recede, replaced by a flicker of confusion, perhaps even a touch of embarrassment. "So you're telling me," she began tentatively, "that all of this equipment, these activities, they're solely for artistic and commercial reasons?" Jake spread his hands, gesturing around the studio. "Yes, that's what I've been trying to explain all week. Look," he continued, picking up his camera. "I'll walk you through it, show you exactly how everything works, if that will ease your mind." He launched into an explanation of the autofocus system, the purpose of each lens, how the lighting created flattering portraits. With each demonstration, he saw Zara's suspicion melt away, replaced by fascination, then by something akin to relief. "The wireless transmitters, they only control the lights?" she questioned. "Only the lights," Jake confirmed. He pressed a button, dimming a softbox, then another, brightening it again. "That's it. No secret communications, no surveillance network, just photography lights that I can control remotely, so I don't have to sprint around the room during a shoot." Zara nodded slowly, absorbing the information, comparing it to some unseen benchmark. "And the ring light device creates even lighting," he went on, demonstrating, the room bathed in a soft, flattering glow, eliminating harsh shadows on people's faces. "See? It just makes everyone look their best in photos." For the first time in days, Zara visibly relaxed, her shoulders losing their rigid tension. But now, questions burned in Jake's mind. "Zara," he began, his voice soft but firm, "where did you think I got this equipment? And what made you so certain I was using it for surveillance?" She hesitated, lost in thought, before finally answering, her voice small and laced with uncertainty. "Where I come from, technology like this is used very differently. I made assumptions based on my own experiences, and I was wrong. I'm sorry for doubting you." It wasn't the whole truth, but it was the most honest she'd been since this whole bizarre situation began. Jake knew there was more to the story, but at least now he understood the source of her fear, however misplaced. "Look," Jake said gently, "I don't know what kind of place you grew up in, where photography equipment was twisted into surveillance tools. But here, this is how I make a living. I help people freeze their happiest moments in time." Zara gave a small nod, yet Jake sensed her thoughts still grappling with something intricate. Whatever had sparked her intense distrust lingered, though she appeared to grasp he wasn't the menace she'd envisioned. Once Jake wrapped up showcasing his equipment, the studio sank into an uneasy quiet. Zara stood there, a mix of sheepishness and palpable relief washing over her face, as Jake struggled to fully absorb the bizarre situation. His roommate had spent an entire week convinced he was a spy, a surveillance operative, all because of his innocent photography tools. "I owe you a genuine explanation," Zara murmured, her voice holding a vulnerability utterly new to Jake. The clipped, formal tone was gone. Where she usually exuded confidence, her voice trembled, laced with vulnerability. Jake settled into his desk chair, motioning towards the other seat. "Talking it through might help, Zara, because honestly, this entire week has been a whirlwind for me." She hesitated before sitting, as if weighing whether she could truly confide in him. For what felt like an eternity, she gazed at her hands, folded tightly in her lap. He sensed her internal battle, the desire to explain warring with an underlying fear. "What I'm about to reveal might seem utterly unbelievable," she began, her voice barely a whisper. "But after witnessing your extraordinary patience with my paranoia, your willingness to illuminate everything instead of reacting with anger, I believe you deserve the complete truth." Jake leaned forward, his gaze unwavering. "I'm here to listen." Zara drew a deep, shuddering breath. "I'm not from Northern Europe. Not from anywhere on this earth." Jake blinked, a flicker of confusion crossing his features. "What do you mean?" Her voice gained strength, a hint of defiance in it. "I mean, I originate from another planet, another world altogether." She raised her eyes, studying his face, searching for any hint of his reaction. Jake's first instinct was disbelief, a nervous laugh rising in his throat. But something in her gaze, a profound sincerity, a palpable fear, stopped him. This wasn't a joke, a game, or some elaborate ruse. She was utterly serious, terrified of his response. "You're telling me you're an alien?" Jake asked slowly, testing the word, the concept. "If that is your preferred term, then yes. I am part of what you might call a cultural exchange initiative. My people dispatch researchers to various civilizations, seeking to comprehend how diverse species evolve and structure their societies." Jake stared, trying to absorb the information. "And you were assigned here to study humans, to immerse yourself within human society and meticulously observe daily life? To gain insights into how your society is structured at the individual level, not just the governmental or technological one?" It sounded absurd, utterly insane, yet as Jake reflected upon the past few months, a deluge of things suddenly clicked into place. Her insatiable curiosity about the mundane aspects of his life, her relentless questions about the most basic human routines, asked as if she were encountering them for the first time. Her formal way of speaking and her careful, deliberate movements were as though she was consciously thinking about every action. "The equipment," Jake murmured, remembering her distress. "Why did it frighten you so much?" Zara's face clouded with concern. "On my world, devices closely resembling your photographic equipment are used for extensive population monitoring and surveillance. Ring lights, almost identical to yours, are employed to gather biological data from large populations. Wireless transmitters similar to the ones you possess facilitate tracking and communication intercepts. So, when I entered your studio," her voice trailed off, "I jumped to the conclusion that Earth was far more technologically advanced than initial surveys had suggested. I feared you were part of a clandestine monitoring program, or worse, that my presence had been detected and you were compiling intelligence about me." Jake shook his head, a mix of disbelief and dawning understanding washing over him. "And all along, I just assumed you were intimidated by expensive camera equipment. I now recognize how foolish my assumptions were. While your equipment bears a striking resemblance to technology from my world, its purpose is entirely different. You use advanced tools to create art, to capture joyful moments. We utilize similar tools for control and surveillance." The weight of her revelation began to settle upon Jake. "So you're not truly human?" Instead of a verbal answer, Zara rose and moved towards the window. She glanced outside for a moment, as if ensuring they were unobserved, then performed an act that stole the air from Jake's lungs. Her skin began to transform. What had appeared to be normal, pale human skin began to shimmer and fade, becoming almost translucent, imbued with a faint, silvery luminescence that danced in the studio light. Her platinum blonde hair shifted to an almost pure white, shot through with subtle iridescent strands. "This is my true form," she said, her voice now laced with a delicate harmonic resonance. "What you have perceived is a projection, a disguise designed to seamlessly integrate me into human society." Jake slowly stood, his heart pounding in his chest. He stirred, comprehension dawning slowly. That's incredible," he breathed. Zara raised a hand, and Jake watched, astonished, as a pen, a lens cap, and his phone lifted slightly from the table, hovering for a fleeting moment before gently settling back. "We possess abilities beyond human capabilities," she explained softly. "Nothing earth-shattering, but enough to warrant extreme caution to avoid accidental exposure." Jake sank back, overwhelmed. "This is really happening? You're an alien, living in my apartment, observing me." "Not like a lab rat," Zara corrected quickly, her skin shifting back to its familiar hue. "Jake, please understand. When I first arrived, humans were simply subjects for observation and documentation. But living with you, witnessing your life, your kindness, your creativity, it profoundly altered my perspective." She leaned forward, earnestness etched on her face. "You're not a specimen. You're my friend. My first true friend. From any species." A strange mix of disbelief and warmth flooded Jake. "Is Zara even your real name?" "It's close enough for practical communication. And everything I've said about enjoying our conversations, about appreciating your patience, it's genuine." "What about your research? Are you still reporting back?" Zara's expression clouded. "I submit regular reports on human social structures and daily routines, but I've never included anything personal about you, specifically. Never documented your individual habits in a way that could identify you." "But you could." "I could, but I won't. What transpires in this apartment, our friendship, your trust, it's excluded from my official research." Jake rose, gazing out at the city lights. Somewhere, countless others lived oblivious to the presence of an extraterrestrial among them. "How many others are there?" he asked, his voice low. "Observers like you?" "I can't provide an exact figure. We're strategically placed in diverse locations to gain a comprehensive understanding of human civilization. And none of them know you've revealed yourself?" "Absolutely not. My actions are a direct violation of protocol. Discovery would result in immediate recall." Jake turned back. "Then why tell me?" Zara paused, her voice barely audible. "Because you demonstrated the capacity for human understanding and compassion, even in the face of the inexplicable. You could have reacted with hostility to my accusations. You could have demanded my departure. Instead, you patiently revealed the truth to me." She hesitated. "And because keeping this secret felt like betraying a friend. After everything you've shared, your life, your dreams, your work, perpetuating the deception felt wrong." A smile tugged at Jake's lips. "So what now?" "I don't know," Zara confessed. "I've never encountered this situation. There's no protocol for revealing one's true identity." Jake sat back down. "Well, I guess we figure it out together." A genuine smile of profound relief spread across Zara's face, whether human or silver-toned. "You're not afraid?" she asked softly. Jake considered it. "No, not afraid. Confused, amazed, maybe a little overwhelmed, but not afraid. You're still Zara. The person who's been my roommate for months, who asks such thoughtful questions, and honestly keeps the place tidier than I ever managed. Discovering she's an alien doesn't negate that she's a great roommate and a true friend. Zara's smile widened, genuinely touched. Thank you, Jake, for understanding, for not freaking out, for still accepting friendship with someone not of this world. Jake grinned back, feeling a surge of affection. Hey, it's not every day you discover your roommates from another planet. This will absolutely make for some amazing stories. In the weeks following Zara's revelation, their lives blossomed in unexpected ways. What began as a simple living arrangement evolved into something extraordinary, a unique bond between beings from different galaxies, learning from each other in ways that benefited both their civilizations. Jake's photography found a new depth with Zara's insights. She possessed a unique ability to dissect human interactions, both analytically and with profound empathy. One evening, while reviewing photos from a recent wedding, she pointed out details he'd overlooked. "Look," she said, studying a shot from the anniversary party. "See the older couple in the background, holding hands, yet their eyes are fixed on the young couple dancing. They're reliving their own early romance. Their faces express both nostalgia and enduring hope." Jake saw the image anew. He'd captured the moment instinctively, but Zara's perspective illuminated its emotional core. "I never considered that," he admitted. "Human emotional bonds are far more intricate than your initial research suggested," Zara said softly. "These gatherings aren't merely social rituals. They reinforce connections across generations, sharing life's experiences." This fresh perspective permeated Jake's work. His photos became more deliberate, focusing on the underlying emotional currents. Clients noticed the change, commenting on the increased depth and emotional resonance of his images. Jake knew he couldn't reveal his secret, that he was receiving guidance from an alien studying human behavior. Simultaneously, Zara's reports to her superiors gained unprecedented depth and nuance. Jake's willingness to explain human customs and motivations provided insights unattainable through mere observation. "Why do humans exchange gifts at celebrations?" she asked one afternoon. "It's about showing you care," Jake explained. "Taking the time to select something specific for someone shows you've been thinking of them, that you understand what might bring them joy." The items themselves often have little practical worth. That's precisely the core of it. A needed gift is useful, but a desired gift proves you value their joy, beyond basic necessities. These talks showed Zara that human actions often spring from feelings, not just cold reason. Her reports shifted, depicting humans as beings of depth, far beyond her species' initial assumptions, motivated by intricate emotional and social yearnings, forming deep, interwoven communities. The photography gear, once a source of confusion, became a link. Jake guided Zara in using the cameras, revealing her innate talent. Her unique alien viewpoint let her capture scenes and instances Jake overlooked. "Humans move in rhythms," she noted during practice in the park, "not just physically, but emotionally. Observe their body language change interacting with different age groups, or expressions flicker when they believe unseen." Jake began to perceive his own kind anew. Gazing at the world through Zara's eyes, Jake found a new appreciation for the ordinary. Unconscious mirroring during passing conversations now unfolded as intricate displays of human connection. As they shared their histories, their friendship deepened. Zara painted vivid pictures of her home, a world ruled by efficiency and cold logic, where individual expression was sacrificed for the good of the collective. Jake's descriptions of creative passion, personal aspirations, and the warmth of human relationships captivated her, as much as her world astonished him. "We lack celebrations like your weddings," she confessed one evening. We forge partnerships on genetic compatibility and mutual goals. The concept of choosing a partner based on emotional ties, then celebrating this choice with music, dance, rituals. It's a beautiful custom, unknown in our world. What about artistic expression? Jake asked, intrigued. Do you create art simply for beauty? Practical artistry exists, yes, but creating art solely for beauty, to convey emotions or capture fleeting moments, that seems uniquely human. Your photography lacks practical survival purposes, but fills life with something practical achievements can't. Jake realized that Zara's presence had a profound effect on him as well. Her queries drove him to question why he dedicated himself to photography, what made him want to preserve specific memories, and how his craft linked him to others and their deepest emotions. I've never thought about why wedding photography appeals to me so strongly, he confessed one day. But talking to you made me see it's about preserving the most jubilant moments when people are encompassed by love. You're documenting the joy of humanity, Zara said softly. Not just art, but a living history of your species' ability to find joy. Their living space quickly transformed into a haven of collaborative study. Jake carefully explained subtle nuances of human behavior Zara encountered, while she allowed him to see previously unconsidered angles in human interactions, which improved his photography in leaps. When Jake struggled with difficult clients, Zara offered solutions that always worked. The mother of the bride is driven by anxiety of lacking control of the event, Zara explained, after one particularly difficult wedding consultation. Rather than make things hard, she wants to ensure her daughter's happiness in the only way she knows how. Should you give her small, participatory tasks, she'll become an ally. The advice proved to be golden. Jake started to see challenging clients as people with relatable motivations rather than annoying hurdles. As weeks drifted into months, Jake and Zara began to feel something new. Jake was learning to observe humanity from an outside point of view, a fresh perspective that made him a better photographer and an infinitely more empathetic soul. Zara began to understand human nature from the inside, gaining an emotional awareness that her species never valued. I think we're evolving together, Jake said one evening as they looked through family reunion photos. You're getting more human, and I'm becoming more aware of what it means to exist as a human. We're building bridges, Zara responded. I'm seeing the value in creativity, human connection, and individuality. You're starting to look at your own species from a new perspective, while not losing sight of what makes humans remarkable. Their friendship had grown beyond a simple cultural exchange, becoming something more. Forging a novel bridge of empathy between vastly disparate intelligences, we demonstrate that heartfelt connection and genuine dialogue can triumph over the most deeply ingrained divides. Jake's relentless dedication bore fruit, his artistry garnering acclaim within the photography community, unlocking doors to more prestigious collaborations and clientele. With advanced NTS projects looming, Jake knew his ace in the hole was Zara, the sharpest cultural analyst he'd ever encountered. Seeing her groundbreaking work, Zara's superiors indefinitely prolonged her assignment. She had a hunch they were blind to the true source of her insights, so she vigilantly guarded Jake's existence in every report. They couldn't predict how long their extraordinary partnership would endure, but both had already been irrevocably changed. Jake realized true friendship could defy any barrier, even cosmic distances. Zara understood that certain qualities, unwavering loyalty, deep trust, and pure affection, were universal virtues blooming wherever intelligent life could forge a bond. Their tale became a testament to understanding across species, a bridge built upon unwavering respect, insatiable curiosity, and the courage to see existence through another's soul. In a vast cosmos teeming with disparate beings, They nurtured something truly exceptional, a friendship that transcended the gulf between worlds.